Republican leaders are learning the hard way who they put their trust in, and they're regretting ever associating themselves with Donald and his regime. Although I think we need to remember how long they stuck by him. Our Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is discovering the true definition of the term "fuck around and find out" when it comes to relying on Donald. Her state was denied major storm funds by FEMA after massive tornadoes swept through the state in March, followed by a second wave of severe storms a week later. Watch a report from Little Rock, Arkansas, CBS affiliated KTHV on the storms.
New tonight at 10, Arkansas's request for federal funding in response to storms, some of those storms last month, has been denied by FEMA. You're looking at video showing the aftermath of an EF4 tornado in Independence County. 3 people died from those March 14th storms. But overall, 17 counties reported damage that night. The governor does say she is preparing to appeal the denial.
Sanders recently wrote a letter to Donald, absolutely begging him to approve FEMA aid for the state after a series of horrific storms. Take a look at what she wrote. Quote, Donald, I respectfully request that you reconsider your denial of major disaster declaration for the state of Arkansas. The severe storms and tornadoes that occurred produced catastrophic impacts across the state. Arkansas will face significant challenges in assuming full responsibility and achieving an effective recovery from this event. As such, supplemental federal assistance is crucial. I respectfully ask that you consider the significant strain on citizens of Arkansas have endured over the past month, unquote. Oh, no. Wow. What a shame. I thought Republicans like Sanders were against asking the government for handouts. Or maybe they're just against having individual human beings who didn't vote for them as for what they consider handouts, like their Social Security checks and all the other goods and services their tax dollars pay for. But now Sanders is essentially begging Donald to reverse course on his promises that she supported all along. Weeks before asking for a handout, Sanders backed Elon Musk's cost-cutting efforts through Doge and said her state was doing the same. Quote, what Elon Musk is doing with Doge is a game changer. Arkansas did the same thing and uncovered hundreds of millions of dollars in waste and inefficiencies, and I know Doge is going to find even more, unquote. And here's Sanders now, when her own constituents, the people who vote for her, not that she cares about them, but when they need help from the federal government, she's the one with her handout, and she is shocked, I tell you, that the federal government, as led by Elon Musk and Donald Trump, are refusing to give her state aid. Because remember, cost cutting, that's important. Similarly, Arkansas's congressional delegation of Republicans are singing a very different tune from the one they previously sang. 2 Republican senators and 4 Republican representatives from Arkansas also sent a letter to Donald asking for him to reconsider the aid denied. Guys, come on. You're making a couple of suppositions here. 1, he can read. 2, even if he can, that he's going to read your letters. And 3, that he cares. But Senator Tom Cotton, one of those who signed the letter, argued in 2012 against sending federal funds to the Northeast after Hurricane Sandy hit. Why would that be? I mean, the storm was very severe. It killed more than 100 people and caused tens of billions of dollars in damage. And New Yorkers were dealing with that for months. So why exactly would Tom Cotton say that people in the Northeast should not receive federal funding for a natural disaster? I mean, we pay our taxes too. It must have something to do with we're blue states and we don't deserve to live, according to people like Tom Cotton. However, when it's his state that gets impacted by a natural disaster, he comes crawling on his hands and knees to beg money from the federal government, although he probably didn't think he was going to have to do that. Why? Well, because his team is in charge of everything. So why would a Republican who's running the federal government be so mean to people like Tom Cotton? Well, I'll get to that in a second. But just remember, Cotton voted no, several times on multiple appropriations for Hurricane Sandy recovery and other relief efforts. When asked about his vote against the Sandy disaster relief bill, Cotton responded, quote, I don't think Arkansas needs to bail out the Northeast, unquote. And here's the thing, though. The Northeast probably didn't need the federal government to bail it out. I mean, the money should have been appropriate to us. We deserve to receive that money. But blue states are relatively wealthy states. And unlike their red state counterparts, they pay more into the federal government than they get back. So-called welfare states, in the South in particular, take more money from the federal government than they pay in. So it shouldn't surprise us that Arkansas, under the circumstances, would be so desperate to get federal funding because almost certainly they do not have the extra funds they need to take care of their own people. Now, because I'm not a fascist and I'm not a monster, I think that Arkansas should get every penny that's coming to it from FEMA. But the fascists and the monsters are in charge. So that means that Arkansas is out of luck. Why? Well, because you guys decided to put in charge somebody who thinks the only thing matters in this world is money. And he has decided to equate the United States Treasury with his own money. So every penny that goes out of the federal government, according to Donald Trump, feels like money that's being taken away from him. So again, I say good luck. Before we go further, please hit like, share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We're pushing for as many subscribers as we can get. As independent media, your support helps us reach more people and keeps this going. All right, well, Arkansas is not the only state getting denied FEMA funds. FEMA has denied aid to a myriad of other states. In fact, many of the red states that voted for Donald are the victims of this lack of funding. West Virginia Governor Morrissey is finding out what Donald's policies are like in reality. I want you to check out this report from WCHS Eyewitness News' coverage after major flooding in West Virginia.
After flooding swept up parts of southern West Virginia, the people who live there are still figuring out what their next moves are. Rebecca Hager, who lives in Tug Valley, says it's been difficult.
Very hard to go back to your homes.
Hager says her family has been living at a local high school and just recently went back to their home, but there's so much that they will have to replace after the flooding.
We have lost a lot of things, and I know I'm not the only one.
Governor Patrick Morrissey requested approval for funds from the federal government earlier this week, but hasn't received any indication on if those funds will be received. With approval, the affected counties and communities would receive funding and support from FEMA. The governor has asked that people fill out an online survey in the meantime that would report damages to help.
The governor had asked for government assistance after $21 million was spent on flood aid for West Virginians, but the request for funding was swiftly struck down by Trump regime-led FEMA. Morrissey, of course, is a staunch supporter of Donald's and has in the past ordered his agencies to put Donald's policies in place, or I should say Trump regime policies in place. And just like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Morrissey has done nothing but praise Donald Trump all along. I just have a question for you, Governor Morrissey. How are those policies looking to you now? North Carolina, a state that famously swung towards Donald last year, has also yet to receive desperately needed FEMA funding in the wake of absolutely devastating storms last year. U.S. Representative Chuck Edwards, a Republican representing North Carolina's 11th district, released a 62-page report this month and sent it to Donald, which focused on recommendations to improve FEMA and accelerate the agency's Helene recovery aid. It seems this report has also been ignored thus far. It's clear that under the Trump regime, no one should expect to receive any form of federal funding, regardless of the extent to which you've supported Donald Trump in the past. So there are some things I know. West Virginia is one of our poorest states, if not the poorest state. West Virginia does not have money to throw around. Also, what we know is for various reasons, But among them, things like the fact that we do not do enough or anything to combat climate change, which is accelerating the number and severity of storms. And some of the most vulnerable states to such storms are red states that continue to vote against their own self-interest, unless, of course, you consider their self-interests are racism, ignorance, and fascism, in which case they're absolutely voting for their self-interest. But that is not exactly going to make it easier for them to protect themselves and their children and anybody they care about from the increasing severity and frequency of devastating natural disasters. And it certainly isn't going to help them do frivolous things like put food on the table. But again, this is what happens when you vote for people, regardless of why, who don't have your best interest at heart, let alone anybody else's. And again, I think it's important to remember just how viciously Donald Trump went after the Biden-Harris administration during the election, while the Biden-Harris administration was doing absolutely everything in its power to help people of North Carolina and other states that had been hit so hard by devastating natural disasters. If you remember what we heard Donald Trump saying, in addition to the fact that he lied by saying that Biden wasn't doing anything. In fact, Biden was making it worse for the people on the ground in those states, that Donald Trump would do better, that on day one, he would make sure that the federal government worked better for the American people. And here we are again, yet a reminder that we, especially you guys in red states, are in the finding out phase. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.